Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining today's Get Smarter SAN Management from QLogic and Brocade webcast. My name is Chris Lorenz, and I'm Director of Partner Marketing. The next slide here going. Great. We've got a full agenda today, which is going to be delivered by our very capable speakers. We have Tim Lustig from Brocade, as well as Nishant Lodha from QLogic. And today they're going to cover the following things. We're going to have Tim start off by reviewing some storage, fabric, and server trends. We'll then have Nishant do an overview of QLogic StorFusion, including an in-depth functionality overview. We'll wrap things up with some Q&A, and then, of course, probably the most important part, we'll do the Apple Watch giveaway. Before I hand it off to Tim, though, a couple things. First of all, the Q&A box on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you can use that to submit any questions you may have. And I also want to just provide a little bit of background on the evolving relationship between Brocade and QLogic. For those who haven't been following recently some of the key announcements between the two companies, if you go back prior to 2013, QLogic and Brocade were both obviously leading companies within the Fibre Channel ecosystem. QLogic with its market share leading Fibre Channel HBA products, and Brocade with its Fibre Channel switch infrastructure products. The companies worked closely together on interoperability, but we also had overlapping aspects of our product catalog, which prevented a deeper level of collaboration between the two companies. But in 2013 and 2014, we had a couple of important announcements which, removed some of those competitive barriers between the companies who were working together. In June of 2013, QLogic did announce that it was going to be ultimately exiting the Fibre Channel switch marketplace once demand for its existing portfolio had migrated to new technologies. About 6 months later, QLogic announced that it was acquiring Brocade's converged network adapter business. With those two announcements, we basically eliminated the roadblocks and the hurdles that prevented the companies from working more closely together. But during the last almost 2 years, the companies have collaborated very deeply on solution development. And today, that collaboration, we're able to deliver industry-leading SAN solutions. And today, the results of some of that work are going to be discussed, and we're going to talk about StorFusion, which is one of the first solution developments that have come out of that close collaboration. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tim Lustig of Brocade to talk about some storage trends. Tim.
Thanks, Chris. So some of these trends I'm sure everybody has heard of before, but hopefully you'll learn a few new things as I point out a couple facts here. And we all know that the CPU and memory advancements have really been taking a profound effect on how dense server virtualization can go. We're seeing more and more workloads on these virtual machines, and if you go back several years, 5, 10 years, the virtualization wasn't that dense, and we didn't see any Tier 1 applications that were running on them. Fast forward to today, and we're seeing the exact opposite. These machines are very dense now, sometimes tens to even hundreds of virtual machines running on one platform, one physical platform. And this is having an effect on the workloads that are being sent and the data that's being sent through those. So workloads now are more random. Basically, they're very diverse. And you may have heard of the I/O blender effect. That's basically what's happening now due to these virtual machines. We throw in the increase as well of the flash storage and SSD, and that's really changing a lot of things too. We've got now the ability to have very fast random access reads. We see with OLTP and database environments that the table and index files can sometimes be scattered all over the place, and these writes have to happen very quickly. And SSD allows for these things to happen. But what's happening now is it really you need to have an increased amount of throughput and data throughput to be able to support these SSDs. So the network is very much critical now to these new environments. And then we take a look at something that's ongoing as well is the rapid growth of mobile platforms and information or the IoT information of things. Everything's starting to become connected to the internet at this point right now. I heard some very interesting facts. 26 billion connected devices, what we're going to be having by 2018. So many devices per person. All these are going to need to have internet access and need to be connected to mobile platforms. We have over 90% of the internet commerce today. Is a fact I heard at a presentation I was in last week, and 90% of the internet commerce today traverses a Fibre Channel link. So you can understand that monetary and currency is very important. So we need to make sure that information is right. Next slide, please. You can see this is having a big effect on the trends, or these trends are having a big effect and creating new challenges for management. So monitoring these new environments is very complex. We have vMotion, which moves storage around, as well as virtual machine sprawl and migration of storage from one device to another. All these need to be supported, and we need to understand what's going on within the environments. So visibility in these environments is very critical at this point. The other thing we see, the service level agreements, 100% uptime with no downtime is what is expected. And we take a look at this at a personal level. And I heard that 3 seconds is what we'll wait for an application to load on our mobile phone. But only 1 second, if we have to wait longer than 1 second to get a response from that application, we start to get upset. And that's at a personal level. You can understand at a business level, SLAs are going to be very critical as well. And we also see that network monitoring, finding out what the health, the performance of these complex networks is very challenging as well too. Again, if you look back a few years ago, spreadsheets were used for the mapping of worldwide port names, which apps were going to which LUNs and different things like that. This makes for a very manual and complex process and is creating these new challenges for management. Next slide, please. I want to just take a minute to introduce a couple of the technologies that Brocade has. The first one we'll talk about is Brocade Network Advisor, and this is really an element in network management for Brocade. So this includes Fibre Channel SAN, IP SANs, switches, and routers. It's one utility that can be used across the board for any of the Brocade products. This is great because it provides a lot of these dashboards and it provides snapshot views so you can do different types of things, analysis, troubleshooting. It's got integrated topology maps, so you can get a good physical and logical look at what's going on in your environment. So this is the visibility, increasing the visibility as I've talked about. What we're trying to do is eliminate some of these challenges we spoke about before by providing new tools. So if we take a look at how the solution that we have with QLogic we want to talk about, they leverage FabricVision. Now, FabricVision is a complete solution of hardware, software. It kind of combines those management together. It uses our Brocade Network Advisor for more of the reporting aspects of it, as well as to launch different things if you wanted to test flows and different aspects of your network like that. FabricVision is also integrated within our ASIC, so we're able to pull out information from that ASIC, the amount of errors, the latencies, and things like that. And previously, this has been native to Brocade only, but recently we've gone ahead and, as Chris was saying, we've been contributing and collaborating with QLogic, and we're bringing these out to everybody. This is going to allow administrators to identify, monitor, and analyze specific data flows and be able to get greater efficiencies and simplify management. Next slide, please. I want to turn this one over to Nishant, who's going to talk about how StorFusion utilizes these Brocade technologies within FabricVision.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Chris. So what you heard from Tim is that the world around us is rapidly changing. There is increasing demand for us to be more efficient in our data centers, to diagnose problems more quickly, more uptime, higher performance. And what has happened is that the two companies, QLogic and Brocade, both leaders on their own technologies, have collaborated together to bring about for you a StorFusion technology. And StorFusion is basically the combination of the intelligence built in the QLogic Fibre Channel adapter as well as the Brocade Fibre Channel switch. And StorFusion as a technology provides you significant benefits. All of these are available with our 16 gig Fibre Channel adapters or Gen 5 in the combination of Brocade's Gen 5 or 16 gig Fibre Channel switches. We'll talk about in more detail about each one of these sections later, but at a high level, if you look at some of the key benefits that is coming out of this collaboration between the two companies is rapid deployment and orchestration. In the past, servers had to be manually configured into the SAN. Servers had burnt in identities of worldwide port names, which had to be configured after the servers arrived, and hence you were not getting the best out of your investments. We have identified between the two companies some software-defined methods that allow you to provision your SAN even before servers with Fibre Channel adapters arrive, so that as soon as they are in your loading dock, you can set them up and get your business applications on them up and running. Saves you time, saves you manual processes, saves you coordination between different departments within your enterprise data center. So not just deployment and orchestration related benefits, we all understand that there are challenges with hardware-based equipment. There can be errors, there can be bad components, and we all need to quickly identify what component could be transient within the Fibre Channel SAN, what could be giving us errors, and what could be leading to degraded performance of applications. So again, the two companies and the intelligence and all bright engineers have collaborated together to develop various different advanced diagnostics tools, some of which are part of Brocade's FabricVision and also called ClearLink. So the advanced diagnostics allow you to exactly pinpoint which component within the Fibre Channel fabric is transient and is leading to performance degradations. It allows you to zero in on the exact component, blink the right lights next to it so that you know what component is transient, what needs to be replaced to bring your applications back to 100% performance. Over and above diagnostics and orchestration, there is quality of service. We live in an environment which is virtualized, in which various different applications are competing for the same hardware resources. Quality of service allows you, the server administrators and the SAN administrators, to prioritize applications and IOs from those applications so that they get their fair share from the storage area network. Next slide, please. So before we talk about more in detail, let's look at some of the data points that we have arrived at talking to customers, talking to tech support, doing our own independent analysis as to what are the benefits, what are the numeric benefits of some of these technologies. We talked about management, and Tim introduced the Brocade Network Advisor, which is an extremely powerful tool that gives you guys who are managing the SANs deep insight into your storage area networks. We provide all of these StorFusion technologies fully integrated into Brocade's management tools, Brocade Network Advisor, and Fabric OS tools that support the Brocade switch. So single pane of glass management that allows you to do diagnostics, deployment, management, quality of service. You don't need to jump around between various different tools from different vendors. One place does it all for you. In addition to that, thanks to some software-defined worldwide name features, deployment times can reduce by up to 30%. Not that is just a numeric number. Think of the benefits when you have your servers not sitting as dead investments while you configure your SAN. As soon as your servers come up, they are up and running within a few minutes. That is amazing. In terms of performance, between our previous generation to next generation Fibre Channel adapters in combination with the Brocade switches, we deliver 3 times more transactions. So you can run big databases, big data applications, and applications which are hungry, which are talking to all flash arrays and demand the maximum transactions per second. And finally, availability. Fibre Channel SANs are known to be robust. They are deployed because they are considered reliable, and hence availability for Fibre Channel SANs is critical. With advanced diagnostic features based on our various polls done by tech support companies on both sides, we have found that such diagnostic features that are the culmination of the two companies collaborating have in many cases helped reduce the time to find faults by 50%, giving you extraordinary uptime. Find the errors faster, find which component is failing exactly, and resolve that issue quickly. Next slide, please. Having put all of the context behind us, all the industry challenges, the two companies collaborating, let's deep dive and talk about what specifically Brocade and QLogic under the StorFusion umbrella are doing to bring about rapid deployment and orchestration. Next, please. Thank you. Before we talk about all of that, let's look at how the world was before the two companies collaborated and brought about to use some of these new StorFusion technologies. In the past, what would happen is that in order for you to configure your fiber channel switches, do the zoning, do the selective LUN presentation on your storage arrays, you required the worldwide name, which is actually burned in on the adapter. So until you received a server with a QLogic adapter, you could not configure your zones, you could not configure your targets. You had to wait for the server to arrive, gather its worldwide name, then do all the configuration while your server just sat there not doing anything. So not only just deploying new servers, even when you were replacing servers, right? If a server failed or a QLogic adapter by a remote chance failed and you were replacing it, you would once again have to reconfigure the entire SAN. Again, takes effort, takes away time from what you are doing to make your business more efficient. So what we brought about is, next slide please, a technology which we call as Fabric Assigned Worldwide Name. Think of it as software-defined worldwide names. So instead of the QLogic adapters burned in worldwide name being used after the server arrives, you can pre-provision your SAN. You can pre-provision the Brocade Fabric and your storage array with software-defined worldwide names, even before the servers arrive. When the servers arrive, all you need to do is just plug them into the right ports of the Brocade switch. The servers with the QLogic adapter get their new identity from the SAN, defined in software by the SAN administrators. We no longer use our burnt-in worldwide name. What that gives us is that instantly, as soon as the server is connected to the Brocade Fabric, it gets its identity, it gets in through all the zones, it gets through all of its LUNs and targets, right? Simple, makes life very simple. Not only that, next slide please, this does not end here, right? Not only just provisioning your SAN, in addition to that, a technology called FBLD or Fabric-Based Boot LUN Discovery. For a lot of you guys running fiber channel SANs, boot from SAN is a very common scenario in which the server with the QLogic adapter, instead of using its local hard drive to pick an operating system, it goes out to the SAN, and from a SAN disk, it picks up its operating system. With Fabric Assigned Boot LUN Discovery, you can pre-provision your SAN using Fabric Assigned Worldwide Name, get the zoning, the LUN masking, and all of those features already pre-configured. In addition to that, you can specify what are the boot LUNs from which this server needs to boot from, all before the server arrives. So if you look at all of this in summary, what are we looking at? We're looking at software-defined worldwide name, the ability to configure your SAN completely, including zones, targets, boot LUNs, even before the server arrives. As soon as the server arrives with the QLogic adapter, all you need to do is plug it into the fiber channel SAN, plug it into the Brocade fiber channel SAN. It'll get its identity, it'll get access to all its LUNs, it'll get access to the boot LUN. The Fabric will tell the adapter which exact boot LUN it needs to boot from, and the server boots up with its OS, with its application, and it is up and running, delivering to you business value without waiting, without additional configuration. Now, this is for deployment of new servers. The same thing applies to replacing servers. If a server failed, all you need to do is bring about a new server, plug it into the same port of the Brocade fiber channel switch. It'll get its identity, the same identity that the failed server had, and all the configurations, all the boot LUNs will now be accessible to this new server. Gives you quick uptime. In case the server failed, you can quickly replace without jumping to various different departments of SAN admins, server admins within your enterprise data center. Excellent business value, better utilization of your resources. Next slide, please. So now we're going to talk about advanced diagnostic, and I'm going to pass to Tim Lustig, who's going to talk how the two companies have collaborated to bring about some beautiful diagnostic tools with the two products talking to each other over the fabric. Over to you, Tim.
Thanks, Nishant. At the beginning of Nishant's discussion, he had mentioned ClearLink, and dport really is ClearLink. It's kind of one and the same. Diagnostic port is the Fibre Channel protocol name for it, and it allows you in large port configurations or small port port count as well to verify cable optic SFP issues. So it's a physical layer issues. Allows you to test links. It allows you to get information back from the SFPs, so you can actually identify errors that may be happening. It allows you to be proactive as well, because you can identify errors that might be problematic prior to deployment and fix those so that you can guarantee that the links will come up. So there's 4 different types of tests that dport really does. There's a electrical loopback test, which validates the transceiver. So if there is a transceiver that is going bad, it might be faulty. You can identify those things and replace them prior to them actually failing. There's optical loopback, which again can test the SFPs and the fiber cables that the fiber run to verify that the cables and everything along the path are going to be accurate, and your data will arrive at its destination. There's also a link traffic test. This comes in specific handy as well. I've seen deployments where they've released this and they wanted to verify that they can run at certain speeds, and this will then verify those speeds that the SFPs are being run at. If there is a slower link on one of the cables, you can be identified and you can set that into the faster link, and that will help you guarantee your SLAs are going to be met. And then the last one is link latency and distance, which is going to be able to track any of if there's slowdowns on that link. It could be a faulty cable, and a cable could need to be replaced, or make sure that you have enough buffer credits to go the distance over the length of the link. So things like that can be very helpful to finding components that are going to be problematic and resolve those issues prior to or after deployment, and hopefully lots of times before the problems actually do cause any type of issues at your data center. Next slide, please. The next diagnostic feature we want to talk about is remote diagnostic parameters. These are going to really be at the link service level, and this will identify different types of requests. We're able to actually probe and find out if there are errors on the ports themselves. And a lot of times they may not be causing an issue today, but for instance, if there's a high temperature in one of the SFPs, that could tell you that is going to be a fault somewhere down the line. So it gives you the ability to replace that prior to experiencing an outage. Different things like temperatures, voltage, and even you can check FEC, which we'll be talking about, which is a forward error correction. You can get statistics back about how many of those frames have been corrected, so you can verify how many errors on a link. Lots of errors on a link could point to some sort of a physical issue on that link as well. So it gives you that ability to diagnose those problems prior to launching or even after launching. Next slide, please. As we spoke about these very large, dense environments, and these SANs are growing, from hundreds of ports to thousands of ports today, it can become very problematic when you're trying to identify a port where there isn't an issue. Trying to trace a cable from one end of the data center to another can have its own problems in itself, and not only being time-consuming, but making sure that you reach the correct endpoint once you're traversing that cable across the line. So what we've introduced is a link cable beaconing. Just like it says, it allows you to kind of ping the ports, and then you can flash the LEDs on those ports, giving you the exact identity of where that port is, and able to identify that and solve problems then rapidly. Next slide, please. So the next one we talk about is Fabric Device Management Interface, or FDMI. And this gives you the ability to do inbound communication. So this is one of the ways that we communicate with the Brocade switches communicate with the QLogic adapters. So we're able to run simplistic commands, find out information about the adapters, and we can also do FC ping or trace route. So this gives you the ability to, just like on an IP network, ping a device, make sure that device is responding, it's responding at an appropriate time, and also trace that route from one end to the other, giving you a view of that typology as well, and it allows us to map that within BNA. So again, very useful when trying to determine issues that may be at fault and identifying where that issue may be. Next slide, please. I'll turn this over to Nishant to talk about quality of service and how we've implemented some new features that will extend the feature set on QoS. Nishant?
Thank you, Tim. So before we jump into quality of service, right, let's quick recap, right? We promised you that the two companies, QLogic and Brocade, have collaborating together to bring you some excellent new features, thanks to the intelligence that the two companies, the experience that the two companies had built in each one of their domains. Now, with the two technologies talking to each other, it brings about to you things like software-defined worldwide names, which allow you to do quick deployments. It allows you to bring diagnostics like never before. Instead of looking at diagnostics-related errors and tests on both sides of the wire, you, as a SAN administrator, sitting only on the Brocade console, can look at the health of all the components in the fabric from a single point. Allows you to better manage your SAN, better troubleshoot errors, quickly deploy servers. But things do not just end there, right? We live in a world in which it is a highly virtualized world in which there are multiple different applications running inside virtual machines, sharing the same storage area network, SAN, and server hardware. Now, all these applications have different SLAs. You cannot expect that I/O infrastructure which cannot differentiate between the needs of these multiple applications to be the right choice within your data center. So what we have done is that, again, the two companies have collaborated together to bring about some technologies that allow you to prioritize each one of your applications, each one of your workloads, provide them high, medium, low priorities, and these priorities are honored by every component in the fabric. So you set the priorities from within your application. These priorities are then honored by the QLogic HBA. Same priorities in the same order are honored by the Fibre Channel switch from Brocade and potentially even the targets that are out there. What this is bringing about is that it is solving the world in which there are multiple different virtual machines competing for the same hardware, and nobody can really predict without an established quality of service mechanism as to what amount of I/O bandwidth and what amount of I/O transactions when each one of these applications get. So two important things to understand about quality of service. Quality of service cannot be just applied at one place within the Fibre Channel SAN. And hence, this end-to-end quality of service is extremely critical because once you set priorities, those priorities are honored by every component within the fabric. In addition, these priorities are set at virtual machine level, at the application level, because that is what the application's SLA, the application's share of physical resources is what really matters. Now in the next slide, we'll talk about a little bit more detail regarding the quality of service solution from Brocade and QLogic. Next slide, please. Excellent. So what we call this quality of service is CSCTL-based quality of service. Now, CSCTL uses an existing part of a Fibre Channel frame to define priorities. How this technology works is that it is based on NPIV or virtual HBAs. In a virtual machine in a highly dense server virtualized environment, multiple virtual machines have their own virtual HBA. And this is the virtual HBA that allows this virtual machine to get access to multiple different LUNs. Server administrators can define priorities of high, medium, and low for each one of these virtual HBAs. So you have direct tie-up with virtual machines. Every virtual machine having every virtual HBA can be defined a high, medium, and low priority. Once you define this priority, every frame leaving from that virtual HBA going out on the wire is stamped with a high, medium, and low priority. And this priority is honored by every component in the fabric. The QLogic HBA gives dedicated queues to the high traffic, to the medium traffic, and to the low traffic, so that nothing gets backed up because of a slow transaction being done by one of the virtual machines. So quality of service, truly the two technologies from Brocade and QLogic talking to each other to classify and prioritize traffic, importantly using industry standard CSCTL-based mechanism, not a proprietary-based system. So this applies not only to virtual server environments, but also can apply to physical server environments. In a physical server, you may have a single application running. For example, let's say you have a Microsoft Exchange application application running. Now, Microsoft Exchange itself, although it is running on a physical server, has different needs of IOs for different types of transaction it needs. For example, Microsoft Exchange, when doing logging, requires a different I/O pattern and guarantees, and while accessing its database, email database, may require a different priority. So even in physical environments, you as a server administrator can clearly specify what priority traffic 1 gets, what priority traffic 2 gets. So nobody is guessing what I/O and what share of the physical resources the application will get. Next slide, please. So we talked about the 3 priority levels, high, medium, and low, and we talked about applications to both hypervisor-based environments, virtual environments, as well as in physical servers. Now, just to reiterate, without the quality of service, it is a first-come, first-served mechanism in which a low-priority I/O will still be put on the wire before a medium and high-priority I/O. Now, unless you have a quality of service mechanism which applies to every component in the fabric, you cannot guarantee that your high priority workloads will get the first priority on the wire. And hence, a simple priority mechanism of just 3 levels, high, medium, and low, allow you to clearly prioritize which applications frames get put out on the wire first by the QLogic HBA using its dedicated queues. These frames then reach the Brocade Fibre Channel switch, and the same priority mechanisms, high, medium, low, without requiring any additional configuration, are honored by the Brocade switch. From the Brocade top-of-rack switch to the Brocade core switch, and potentially to a target array that supports a CSCTL-based quality of service. Priorities are set at the application level within the virtual machines and honored by every component within the fabric. Makes it really simple, and nobody is guessing what quality of service my applications will get. Allows you to deliver SLAs in highly dense virtual machine environments. Next slide, please. So we talked about quality of service in which you prioritize traffic from individual virtual machines. In addition to that, we live in a world in which there could be components which get dirty. There could be longer fiber channel links that contribute to bit errors within the fiber channel fabric. We have a technology, thanks to the combination of Brocade and QLogic, which brings about forward error correction. So what forward error correction technology does is it works silently in the background. Right. This technology, because of the collaboration of the 2 companies, allow the transmitter or receiver, or depending upon which direction IOs are flowing, the QLogic adapter or the Brocade switch, to automatically detect bit errors, and using forward error correction algorithms, detect bit errors and automatically correct them. What this avoids is retransmission of things, of frames or bits that got corrupted because of a longer fabric or a dirty transceiver or potentially a bent or damaged cable. What this allows you to do is, without requiring any additional configuration, automatically on the fiber channel fabric, frames are detected with bit errors, and instead of asking the transmitter to retransmit them, they are automatically corrected, bringing you a network, a fiber channel SAN that is more resilient, that is better performing. Now, if you look at forward error correction, right, at higher speeds like 32 gig fiber channel or Gen 6 fiber channel, the standards require forward error correction, and certainly all vendors are going to implement forward error correction for 32 gig fiber channel. What QLogic and Brocade have done, have collaborated together to bring the forward error correction technology even to 16 gig fiber channel, even to Gen 5 fiber channel, bringing you the benefits of automatic error recovery to what SANs you run today, 16 gig fiber channel SANs. Okay, next slide, please. So we talked about all these things relating to all the benefits of the 2 minds collaborating, Brocade and QLogic. And this collaboration spans from business units to engineering to sales, and the 2 companies are really getting together to bring benefits for you customers. And if you summarize some of these benefits we spoke about, both me and Tim, in the last several minutes, is Importantly, on management, a single tool, Brocade Network Advisor or Fabric OS-based tools on the Brocade switch, one place where you can manage your switch and your adapter. You can do diagnostics, you can do deployment, you can do configurations for quality of service and things like that. Allows you to simplify things within your data center. Not just management. If you look at the next build here, we talk about deployment. We talked about how identities of the QLogic Fibre Channel adapter can be defined in software within the Brocade fabric. So we no longer use the burnt-in worldwide name of the QLogic adapter. Instead, the adapter gets its identity from the SAN, allowing you to get better and faster leverage out of your investments in servers. Your servers are no longer sitting in loading docks waiting for you to finish configuring your SAN. Your SAN is pre-configured. Your boot launchers are configured. The gold image is configured already. When the servers arrive, plug and play. The applications come up within a few minutes. Simplifies things, minimize interactions between various different teams within the data center. Moving on from deployment to talk about performance. There's a couple of things that the two companies have collaborated together on performance. The first is the quality of service mechanisms, in which quality of service set on the applications are honored by the adapter automatically and by the Brocade switch automatically without requiring any additional configuration on each point of the fabric. The components talk to each other and make sure everybody's interpretation of priority is the same. This is end-to-end priority. Every component in the Fibre Channel SAN delivers to this. In addition, from performance, we have forward error correction, which automatically corrects frames and continues to deliver to you the high performance that you expect from the Fibre Channel SANs. And last but not the least is availability. We talked about quick diagnostics using ClearLink and deport technologies. Exactly isolate what cable, what optics is giving you trouble, is transient, is causing degradation in application performance. In addition, not just identification of the component with link cable beaconing, the LED next to that failed component blinks so that you can quickly identify in the hundreds of cables that run through multiple different tracks exactly which component needs to be addressed and the issue resolved right there. Allows you to simplify things. Right. In addition, QLogic's Fibre Channel adapters deliver much better reliability than other solutions using their port isolation architecture. In a multi-port QLogic adapter, each port has its own independent resources, its own firmware image, its own set of processors and memory. So failure of one port does not impact the other. Once again, brings about the port isolation technology, brings about better reliability within your Fibre Channel SANs. So it's sum it all up, right? StorFusion, again, truly the two companies talking to each other, the technologists, the engineering team collaborating and bringing you the combined intelligence of the Brocade switch as well as the QLogic adapter without you, the SAN and server administrator, to piece things together. Simplified deployment, a single console for management, diagnostics that span through the fabric, software-defined features that allow you to not run around and figure out what is the burnt-in worldwide name and then do the configuration, and things like that we all talked about. So having said all of these things, let me pass it over to Tim, and Tim will tell you some customer success stories around each one of these items and how from the last several months where we have had these features and Brocade's previous experiences with their customers, how customer challenges have been solved with some of these features. Over to you, Tim.
Thanks, Nishant. And these are actually, they come from real customer use cases, and I want to talk about them. I can't identify the customers. We don't have their authorization to do that, but I'll talk to you a little bit about what we've done. And these features, we give you a lot of different capabilities. We've increased the performance over Gen 4 to Gen 5, as well as added in different features to make sure that the data streams are going to have better availability as well. So we were increasing the management visibility, making things easier for you there. We're simplifying deployment, provisioning, and then optimizing availability. All this means that we're differentiating Fibre Channel over other storage technologies. We think it's the best storage technology out there. That's why we're sharing this with you today. So if we go on to the first use case, and it's performance, this comes from an e-commerce site. You can imagine that, especially during the holiday seasons when people are shopping, this site was experiencing problems, during these rush hour times where they're having devices that were not behaving correctly, and they're having an inability to be able to discover those devices. They didn't know where the problems were coming from, so it was very difficult for them to fix it. Now, by implementing the ClearLink features, they were able to actually identify the problems and correct those prior to or correct them immediately. They've also were able to proactively start monitoring these, and they're able to increase the instrumentation. This enhanced the reliability in transmission and resolve these problems. They're now able to keep up with the data transfer rates. The next one was a large insurance company. And the issue here, they were having, again, there was a visibility problem. They were having a hard time finding where these problems were generating from. Now, this lack of visibility caused a lot of different issues for them. It made troubleshooting very problematic. It was very time-consuming and very inefficient for them. Now, by including some of these advanced management features, they're able now to do some of the advanced diagnostics and increase the availability and performance of their SAN. So this helped them actually to reduce the performance-related support calls by over 90%. Prior to installing these features, they were actually using the element manager of the storage array and trying to do all of their troubleshooting through that, which did not give them the visibility they needed. So it prevented them from really taking this management capabilities to the next level. Now they've got those capabilities, and they're able to increase uptime and decrease the amount of support-related issues they have on that. The next one is a managed cloud services provider, and this was actually through a deployment issue. They had a very large environment, and it resulted in a very unbalanced environment as well. So this created more problems for them too, as they were overweighted with data on certain links and underutilizing others. When they were actually in the process of, they were on a Gen 4 8 gig environment and were moving to 16 gig. And they were able to use a lot of these advanced features and diagnostics to verify the integrity of the data paths prior to implementing the Gen 5 solution. They told us that they actually experienced about 15% of the links had issues on them on previous deployments. Now, by pre-testing these links prior to deploying stuff, the applications on it, they're able to verify that where the problems were and able to correct those before they actually launch the applications. They mentioned that previously they had different types of issues as far as when they were migrating the data, they would go ahead and take the application live, and they wouldn't find out that they had problems on those links until after that application was live. Then it was very problematic for them trying to find time to take that application offline so that they can attempt to do the troubleshooting at that point. So this really increased everything for them, and they said that with using the pre-deployment and pre-provisioning features as well, they were able to get their new network up and running 90% faster than they were on previous generation changes. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Chris, who's going to just summarize everything and give away the watch, which I know a lot of you are waiting for.
Thanks, Tim, and thanks, Nishant, for both of you guys for providing such a thorough and comprehensive overview of StorFusion. I want to encourage the attendees to go to the StorFusion .com website. If you have more questions, you have more information you'd like to learn about the capabilities of StorFusion, we've got white papers, we have videos that show how to implement and utilize the StorFusion capabilities, and many other pieces of content and collateral that are available to you. So please go visit that site for more information. That being said, we do have a little time here for Q&A, so please type your questions into the Q&A box. We have a few here already. We have one, I think this is for you, Nishant, from Jim at TIG, wants to know, is there a StorFusion vCenter plugin, and does StorFusion quality of service conflict with vSphere I/O control feature?
That's a great question, Jim. Let's first talk about the vCenter plugin. So the answer to your question is yes. the StorFusion features are integrated into QLogic's existing QConverge console or QC vCenter plugin. So you'll find all the relevant controls right then and there with the interface that you are already used to. Okay. Again, available to download from QLogic.com at no additional cost. Now let's talk about storage I/O control. A lot of you guys may already be familiar. Storage I/O control works in a significantly different way than quality of service mechanisms, right? And before I explain what those differences are, also understand that storage I/O control or SIOC available within VMware vSphere or ESX is not a feature available by default. It is upsell. They need to go to a higher licensing for VMware in order to get storage I/O control, while QLogic's industry standard CSCTL-based quality of service is available as part of the usual package from QLogic for no additional cost. Now let's talk about the differences. What CSCTL-based quality of service does is that it prioritizes the QLogic CSCTL-based quality of service or StorFusion quality of service does it. It prioritizes each frame with a priority, high, medium, and low, and that priority is then honored by every component within the stack. Okay. How VMware storage I/O control feature works, it is more, what it does is that it monitors the latency that you define to each data store. Okay. And when the latency for each one of that data store comes close to your high watermark, and then starts throttling the IOs. Okay, so it is more after-the-fact mechanism rather than prioritizing each frame for its own IO requests. So my personal recommendation is that StorFusion quality of service available at no cost, and it prioritizes each frame, and that frame is then honored, the priority on that frame is honored by every piece within the fabric. Storage I/O control works after the fact, in which it monitors the latency, and as the latency for the data store comes close to the high water mark, it then starts throttling, right? Two different approaches to giving you quality of service. One you pay for, and it's more after the fact, and one in which is available for you by default, and importantly, the Brocade switch in the middle also prioritizes the traffic accordingly. I hope that answers you.
Thanks, Nishant. And I think you may have just answered Robert's question, which was, does using StorFusion require the purchase of a separate license?
Certainly not.
Great.
It's available by default on the Brocade switch. Sorry, Chris. It's available. There's no licensing required for the quality of service, both on the QLogic adapter as well as in the Brocade switch. If you have a Brocade Gen 5 switch and a QLogic Gen 5 adapter, you already have these technologies. Go look at the videos, look at StorFusion.com, look at how you can leverage it today.
Thanks, Nishant. And then we have a question from Diane, and that is, which specific QLogic products come with StorFusion included?
I'll take that, Chris. So, Dan, QLogic has Gen 5 or 16 gig Fibre Channel adapters. All of the StorFusion features that we discussed about here are available in the enhanced Gen 5 portfolio of QLogic, which has the QLE 2694 adapter. Some of the features of StorFusion are also available in previous generation Gen 5 16 gig Fibre Channel adapters, which are the model number is QLE 2672. So if you're looking at all of these features, the adapter to choose is QLE 2694, which is under the enhanced Gen 5 umbrella. And the exact differences between the two adapter models and what is supported where is in one of the slides within this deck. So when you get this presentation, you will get that information, and also on StorFusion.com. So go check it out.
Thanks, Nishant. Okay, I'll give you guys one last chance to see if there's any additional questions. While we wait to see if there's any others, we'll background here, start to pull a name out of the hat for the drawing. We'll give it a few more seconds here to see if there's any additional questions.
Chris, there is a question from Jeff who was asking, are the StorFusion tenants based on, or will they eventually be standards open to other companies? And it's, very good question, and yes, many of them are, not all of them are standards. Brocade is trying to push these through as well so that they will become standards. And some of these features will be actual within the standard for Gen 6 as well. So they are optional to be supported on some of these features. So you can't find them on all of every Fibre Channel device. What QLogic and Brocade are doing here are trying to, again, as I mentioned, provide differentiation over different technologies. But we also are trying to improve the data transfer and make Fibre Channel a stronger storage protocol as well, making it more friendly and simplifying stuff. So, yeah, while some of them are, not all of them are, but Brocade is pushing for them to be open standards in the future for many of them.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, I haven't seen any additional questions come through, so I think it's time we do the drawing. The team here in the background has handed me the name they've pulled out of the hat. And I am happy to announce that Alan Eclipse with McCarran International Airport in Las Vegas has won the Apple Watch today. Congratulations, Alan. We have your contact information. We will be reaching out to you to work with you to figure out how we can get you the Apple Watch as quickly as possible. So, again, thanks to Tim and Nishant, our speakers today, as well as everybody for attending. And again, encourage you to go out to storfusion.com to check out more information, and hope everybody has a good rest of the week. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.